Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Read Instead. I'm Jake. Glad to have you here today. Just going to do a quick instant reaction, immediate reaction to the book Dissolution by C.J. Sansom. Okay, this takes place in 1500s England. And, you know, it's cool, and I'm appreciative of the fact that by a lot of novels that I've read, I've gained a lot of insight and knowledge into the history of England, and it's really quite fascinating. One of the most fascinating aspects of it is the sort of conflicting power struggle between the state and the church that took place for, it seems like, hundreds of years. And certainly during the 1500s, I believe that's called the Tudor period. That's really the time when the church, the Catholic Church, and essentially the Pope in Rome started their power started to wane, and the government, the monarchy and the state government of England started to gain more power. I watched this, and I've been sort of fascinated with this whole subject the past few weeks, especially reading this book. And I watched a movie a couple nights ago called Beckett. The name of the movie is called Beckett. It's with Peter O'Toole and Richard Burton. It came out in the early '60s. Phenomenal movie, and it's about King Henry II and his friend turned Archbishop of Canterbury in England, Thomas Becket, based on basically a true story. I mean, obviously the dynamics and stuff that they had going on in the movie, I'm sure they wasn't recorded, but just a phenomenal movie. I would recommend seeing that, and that gives you an idea. It gives you a really good idea of the conflict between the church and the state. You know, it's interesting because the church had this, sort of, they had they instilled fear, and they held on to their power over the people, through spiritual means, right? And condemnation of hell and purgatory. That was a big thing. Like condemning someone to the church had the power to condemn somebody to purgatory, and these people all believe this stuff wholeheartedly. So they had a lot of power, and then of course the government had power because they had the iron fist. They had the sword. They had the power of execution and stuff like that. So anyway, this is during that time, okay? And Lord Cromwell, who's sort of a high-ranking official in England at this time, there is a murder that takes place by basically a government worker. Goes down to a monastery in a little town on the coast of England called Scarsey, and he's down there to investigate some sort of financial matters that they think is sort of out of shady. Matthew Shadlake is an attorney, a lawyer, sort of with a really good reputation for being good at what he does. He's a hunchback, and this sort of gives him a dynamic that is he's sort of introverted, and obviously people take him at face value in a different way that they would take a able-bodied person. But he's very witty. He's very, not witty so much with words, but witty in his mind, and he's highly intelligent, and he's good at what he does. And Lord Cromwell sends Matthew Shadlake down to this monastery where this murder is taking place to investigate and find the culprit of this murder. He takes along with him a young man. It seems like he's only about 18 or 19 or 20, something like that. His name is Mark, and he lives with him actually up in London. And so he takes him down, and he's sort of like Mark is sort of his I wouldn't say muscle, like they go around torturing people to get information or anything like that, but he's basically the able-bodied, young, sort of high energy young man that can sort of get things done for him that maybe he can't or wouldn't want to do because of his his handicap that he has. So he gets into this monastery, and each character is very sort of unique in this book. There are it's very interesting. You learn a lot about how a monastery works. There's someone called a bursar, which is sort of in charge of all the finances. There's a sacratist, who's like sort of the spiritual head and conducts the services in church and whatnot. You have the abbot, which is sort of the highest ranking member of it, but they don't really do much. They just sort of oversee the whole thing. It's almost like it's their monastery, but they don't do too much hands-on work. You have the prior under them, which is in charge of sort of all the behavioral and disciplinary actions that take place within the monastery and keeping basically all the monks in line. Anyway, you have all these different jobs, and with each one of these characters who holds these positions, they're all very unique, and Matthew Shardley comes into contact with them. They all sort of have their backstories and whatnot, and basically as the investigation continues on, more and more bad things, crimes, so to speak, I don't want to give too much away, start to take place. And that just sort of continues to unveil the reason why this man from the government worker, was ultimately murdered. Okay, so I gave this book 3 stars, and I think, I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but I think the main reason why I gave this book 3 stars is just because of how, I mentioned this in my last video, how busy I have been in life just in the past month or so, and I'm starting to sort of free up some time and get back into the swing of things and learn how to, remanage my time and stuff like that so I can start to read more. But I had very few long sort of reading sessions when I would get back to this book. Most of it was kind of just 15-minute reading sessions, you know what I mean? And for me, just the way my brain works, it was hard for me to really get like engrossed into the story, because it was just all in sort of quick spurts, you know what I mean? So that's on me. I don't hold that against the novel, but I'm going to be honest still with my review, and I gave it 3 stars. But in saying that, I can't really think of anything negative to say about the book. I think C.J. Sansom, he paints a great picture with words. I felt like it brings you back to the setting, in 1500s, in this sort of dark seaside town where the monastery lies. It really brings you into that place. The dialogue was great. The inward dialogue of Matthew Shardley, the detective, was good. I really don't have any complaints. It was a pretty good twist at the end also. I would recommend this book, and I probably will continue on with the series. I have the whole series right behind me here, so I will continue on with it. Just, again, my fault. I didn't sit down to read it at length, that many times. So it just, I didn't, after finishing it, I can't think of a moment when I was like really longing to get back to this book. But again, that's just on me. So 3 stars. If I guess maybe I'll say 3.5. But I did enjoy it. Dissolution by C.J. Sansom. This is my immediate reaction. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.